Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. All praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rekakadash. Now, this lesson is about the deliverance of Israel and how they will be delivered, and how they will be delivered by the chariots of Israel, or the so-called UFOs. And so, but to get that understanding, there's some principles that you got to understand about the Bible. Now, when you go to Isaiah 28, chapter 28, verse 9, it say, "Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast." Verse 10, "For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, and there a little." So you got to go precept upon precept. And so the precepts is how you're going to get an understanding. And that goes with Psalms 119, 104. It says, Psalm 119, 104 says, "Through thy precepts I get understanding." So when you go precept upon precept, that's how you get an understanding. And like some say, "Through thy precepts I get understanding." Now when you go to Proverbs lets you know how important that is. Proverbs 4 and 7, it say, "Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding." Okay? Get understanding. Now, Proverbs 1:6 say, "To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings." You see, that's saying that you got to understand that there's some dark sayings in the Bible. There's some proverbs and things that you got to understand. That everything is not just black and white and so simple. Now, in Psalms it talks about that Christ will come with proverbs and dark sayings. But Hosea, the 12th chapter, verse 10, Hosea, the 12th chapter, verse 10, says, "I have also spoken by the prophets, and have multiplied visions, and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets." So you got to understand there's similitudes that's used in the Bible. And so these similitudes is going to help you understand certain things. It's not just as it is or black and white. It's telling you something that's similar to one another thing. And that's when it comes to the chariots, you got to understand the word cloud. The word cloud is a similitude. It's letting you know something that's similar to a cloud. It's using cloud as a description, or it's using cloud to give you understanding of how something is similar to a cloud. So when you go to how we're going to be delivered, you go to Matthew, the 24th chapter. And so let's see here. Matthew 24, chapter 30. Matthew 24, chapter 30. It breaks down how the deliverance will take place. Matthew 24:30 say, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds and from the end of the heaven to the other. Now, so he's coming in the clouds. So let's deal with these clouds first. Now, when you go to Isaiah 66:15, it explains how he's coming. Now, let's see what word that they're going to use in Isaiah 66:15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, and render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. So you got fire, you got the chariots, and you got the whirlwind. But he says he's coming with his chariots, and it's describing the chariots as a whirlwind. So that's giving another similitude to how these chariots is looking. But in Matthew, it says cloud. He's coming in a cloud. Okay, when you go to Revelation chapter 1, you go to Revelation chapter 1, it also repeats how he's coming. Chapter 1, verse 7, it says, behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all the kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. So it's saying the same thing in Matthew. He's coming with clouds. But when you get to the 66th verse of Isaiah, of 66th chapter of Isaiah, in verse 15, it says he's coming with his chariots. Now, when you go back to Matthew 24, it says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather his elect. So the angels is going to gather his elect. The angels are doing the gathering. Now, you have two sets of angels too, because the Israelites are angels. They are angels in the Bible. Now, when you go to Matthew 13, it also talks about the angels being the reapers. That the angels will be the reapers to gather together those Israelites, or to gather together his servants. And so those angels is the key. So how is the angels when it comes to the Bible? Let's get that in let's get how the angels operate to let you know how they will gather the Israelites or the elect of Israel. Now when you go to Psalm 68 verse 17, it says the chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. So now it's giving you a definition of the chariots, because it say in Isaiah 66, it say he's coming with chariots. So if he's coming with the chariots, that means he's coming with the angels, like in Matthew 24 say, he's coming with on the clouds with his angels. So the angels and the chariots go hand in hand. And so the angels is going to gather up his elect. So the angels gathering up his elect, and the chariots of God is thousands of angels. That means the angels is going to be in the chariots gathering the children of Israel, the elect of the children of Israel. Now Ezekiel gave you a deeper understanding of how these chariots and these angels operate. Plus two, it talks about a whirlwind, and gives you deeper understanding of the whirlwind that was, he say in Isaiah 66, he say he would come with the chariots like a whirlwind. So it's described the chariot as something that looks like a whirlwind. So when you go to Ezekiel, the first chapter, verse 4, it says, "And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud." There go the cloud again. "And a fire enfolding itself." That's why they say he's coming with flames of fire in Isaiah. "And a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber out of the midst of the fire." So now he's finna describe the chariots or the angels that's with the chariot. See, the angels is moving and operating, but when you think about a chariot is something that somebody ride in. It's a vehicle. And so people call the UFOs objects, but one of the scientists, or the one that was dealing with the astronauts, he said he didn't want to call it an object, he wanted to call it a vehicle, because a vehicle is something somebody rides in. And so the chariot is something rides in. It's something that's it's a vehicle. But this Ezekiel breaks it down the best. When you go to the first chapter and you fast forward to verse 16, the end of verse 16, it gives you an idea of how they look. It say, "And their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel." So now it's describing the great cloud, this great chariot, that has fire all around it, or lights around it, and this whirlwind that it's describing. It connected pretty much Isaiah 66 and Matthew. It connected the clouds with the chariots and the whirlwind with the chariot. So these three things, these three similitudes that's given to what they call so-called UFOs that we see in the sky. And now when you go to Ezekiel 1, chapter 1, verse 19 to 21, real quick, it says, it says, "And when the living creatures went, the wheels went with them." Now it's calling the chariots wheels. That's another similitude. Because when you go to Daniel chapter 7, it says the Most High had wheels. And pretty much he have chariots, his angels. And so they're using the chariots as wheels now. This great cloud, that's this whirlwind that came out of the north, as verse 4 said. Now, finishing 19, it say, "And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels was lifted up." So the wheels and the creatures or the angels, they was lifted up at the same time. And it's going to break that down in verse 20. "Wheresoever the spirit was to go, they went. Thither was their spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up over against them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels." You see? So the wheel is the chariots, because the spirit of living creature or the angel was in the chariot. And that's what it's going to break down in 21. And when those went, these went. And when those stood, these stood. And when those lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up over them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheel. So he was seeing the angel, he could see the angel, and he was giving you an understanding that the angel was moving in the chariot. They was both moving and lifting off the earth at the same time. You see, and he described it as a wheel, as wheels, and that's what we say to this day. When we talk about our cars, we call them wheels. You see, so when you go back to Matthew, and it talks about the angels will gather the elect, it breaks it all the way down in Revelations 11. When you go to Revelations 11, let's see here, 11 verse 12. Revelation 11 verse 12 say, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud. There goes the cloud again. So they went in the chariot, and their enemies beheld them. Now, Revelation 11 goes right along with Revelations 11 goes with First Thessalonians. First Thessalonians break down the order of how the Israelites would be rescued or delivered, or how they would go up into the chariot. So in First Thessalonians 16 says, for the Lord, no, chapter 4, verse 16. First Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. So the dead is going to rise up into the chariot first, before the people that's living. Verse 17. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. So these ones that's gonna rise first, they even gonna help gather up the children of Israel. Now the precept for that, because you got to go precept upon precept to get an understanding. Because the precepts elaborate. Through the precepts, I get an understanding. Because the precepts elaborate on the situation. That's where you had the Gospels, or what they call the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. When you get all four of them together, you get a deeper understanding, because some of them spoke on some things that the other one didn't speak on. And it gave you a more in-depth understanding and details of the story. So when you go to Isaiah 66 and 66 verse 19, it says, this is in Isaiah 66, 19, and I will set a sign among them, and I will send those that escape of them unto the nations. So he's going to send the elect that escape the destruction. He's going to send them to the nation. And what is he sending them to the nation to do? You jump down to verse 20. He say, and they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Lord out of all nations, upon horses and in chariots. So it gave you a clear statement. The elect is gonna, that's why in Matthew 24, 31, it talked about that the angels will gather them, and not only the angels from heaven, but also the Israelites, the elect Israelites that's gonna rise first. They gonna be the ones helping gather up the children of Israel. Because in verse 20 it say, they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Lord out of all nations upon horses and in chariots. And it let you know who it's talking about when you go down. It says, to my holy, it tell you where they gonna bring them to my holy mountain Jerusalem, says the Lord, as the children of Israel bringing the offerings in a clean vessel into the house of the Lord. That also, the precept for that one is Jeremiah 16. Jeremiah 16:6. We're starting at 15. Jeremiah starting at Jeremiah 16, starting at verse 14. We're gonna read it all the way down. Therefore, behold, the days come, says the Lord, that it shall no more be said, the Lord liveth, that brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. 15. But the Lord liveth, that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither they have driven them. I will bring them again into their land that I've given to their fathers. Now that's what he said in 66 of Isaiah. 66, 19 and 20. It said they will bring the brethren back to Jerusalem, the holy mountain. And in 16 of Jeremiah 16:16, say, behold, I will send for many fishers, says the Lord, and they shall fish them. So they're going to go fish the Israelites wherever they are. They're going to hunt them and fish them. You see, that's where you go precept upon precept, and you get an understanding of how the deliverance is going to happen. But you got Isaiah 26, Isaiah 26:20 is talking about the deliverance also. Isaiah 26:20, it says, come, my people, enter into thy chambers, and shut the doors about thee. Hide thyself as it were for a little moment until the indignation be overpassed. Because that's what's talking about when we are being delivered, like in Revelation say our enemies gonna behold us. But while they beholding us, in Revelation chapter 11 verse 12, it says that in the next verse in 13 say that great earthquake is gonna happen. You see, that's the indignation, and that earthquake ain't just an earthquake. That's nuclear missiles, nuclear fire coming to America, and our enemies gonna see us going up in the chariots while these nuclear missiles blowing them or coming towards them, getting ready to blow them to smithereens. Now, when you go to Psalms, it was stated in Psalms before then. It says, this is Psalm 57. Psalm 57 verse 1. Be merciful unto me, O God, be merciful unto me, for my soul trusteth in thee. Yet ye in the shadow of thy wings will I make my refuge, until these calamities be overpassed. So the shadow of his wings is the chariots. And that's where we're going to have our refuge. And a refuge is when you is in war. You in war at war with somebody, and the refugees of that war is going to escape, or they're going to be fleeing. And we're going to make our refuge under the wings. That's what he said. He'd make his chariots clouds. In Psalm 104, he make his chariots clouds. Now let's get that, because I don't think I got that one. He make his chariots clouds. 104. 104 verse 3 Say, who lays his beams of the chambers in the waters? That go to chambers. Who maketh his clouds his chariot? Who walketh upon the wings of the wind? You see, the wings, under his wings is those chariots. And it's going to hide us from the calamities that's coming upon Babylon the Great, out the land of our captivity. Let's make sure. Oh, grand finale. Grand finale is in 2nd Ezra 13. 2nd Ezra 13 is 2 key scriptures. It talks about Yahushua coming to get us, but it gives a little bit more detail. That's why you got to go precept upon precept. 2nd Ezra 13, chapter 13, verse 6 say, but I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew upon it. Now it's describing Yahushua saying he was on a great mountain and flying on a great mountain, but this mountain is a chariot. He has his chariot. You can't throw a cloud on that. It's gonna be the mothership. Now in verse 12 it gives you detail. He said, same chapter 13, verse 12. It said, afterwards saw I the same man come down from the mountain, and call unto him another peaceable multitude. That's that voice. He say the voice, he gonna come from heaven with the voice of an archangel. It says, afterwards I saw the same man come down from the mountain, and call unto him another peaceable multitude. Verse 13, and there came much people unto him, whereof some were glad, some were sorry, some of them were bound, and others were brought of them that were offered. That were offered, like in Isaiah 66:19. Then was I sick through great fear, and I awakened and said. So Ezra was given a vision of people being brought to Yahweh when he come off the mothership, or when he come with the mothership. A great peaceable multitude. You see, some bound, because they're going to have some of us maybe in prison with chains on. And so you got all descriptions and precepts in this book letting you know how the elect of Israel will be delivered through the chariots of the Most High. Now you got places like in 2 Kings 6:15, where the Elijah told he prayed that the people that was with him eyes would be open, and when their eyes was open, they saw chariots all around Elijah. So the chariot, or Elisha, because Elijah in 2 Kings the 2nd chapter, he got taken up in the chariot. He was taken up in the chariot. They call it the chariot of Israel and the chariot of fire. And so he was taken up in the chariot. Elijah, but Elisha, he was surrounded by chariots. Now also in the Maccabees, 2nd Maccabees 5:1, you had chariots come and participate in the war. I think Maccabees 5:1, you had they was in the heat of the battle, and right in the heat of the battle, these 2 chariots came down with the angels and to help deliver the children of Israel that was battling with these peoples. No, that was in Second Maccabees 10, but Second Maccabees, no, that was horseman ride. Yeah, Second Maccabees 10 was the two chariots, the two angels coming out to help fight. But in even in Maccabees, Second Maccabees chapter 5, 1, it said it was um it came from heaven, or it said they was running in the air, horsemen running in the air and clothed with gold. So you know it. The horses also, they're not riding in the air with no horse. You see, they're not materializing or making a vision of a horse in the air. They got chariots. They just used the word horseman so they could get an understanding back then. But those were chariots in the air, and they say it was clothed of gold and armed with lances. Uh, that's probably beams and like a band of soldiers. So they had weapons. They said, and troops of horsemen in array. So they had many chariots that was right, because he said horsemen running in the air. That's multiple. So you had chariots come and help the Maccabees fight in verse 5, in chapter 5, and in chapter 10 they came and helped them fight it again right in the heat of the battle. So these chariots been around and they've been operating. When you go to Sirach in the Apocrypha, Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 43, verse 8, it talks about the armies, the instrument of the armies, being on the other side of the moon, the dark side of the moon, where the sun don't give its light. So that's where they operate back there on the far side of the moon, where these Edomites can't see. Because the only thing you can see is the light side of the moon, which is telescope or whatever. And so these Edomites done went up there and seen craters and all kind of stuff on the dark side of the moon. But it's been in the Bible the whole time. But I'm going to leave it there. All praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah, Ba'Shem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders pushing the truth. Peace to the elect worldwide. Death to America. Death to these red dragons. Shalom.